Surprise!
Alice? What is this?
It doesn't really make sense when you think about it. The typewriter, for all of its advancements that it helped achieve in our society, was on the way out, if not completely gone, by the time video games started their journey onto our televisions and monitors. Time and time again, the humble mechanical device that we call a typewriter finds its likeness scanned, wireframed, and rendered onto numerous games across years of development. Even still, as you'll see, the typewriter doesn't always find itself being presented as it once was. It can be used as a game mechanic, an artistic representation of a future that never came to be. This is by no means a comprehensive list of every typewriter in every single video game that's ever existed, but a collection of notorious and unique encounters that most of us would glance past without a second thought. Be aware, though, that some of these mentions may have spoilers, so watch with caution. Number 1. Alan Wake. There aren't many games so synonymous with writers and authorship as Alan Wake. In the beginning of Alan Wake Episode 1, the titular character is gifted a typewriter, and while they don't seem to be too pleased about it, the developers certainly did their homework. The model for this typewriter is similar to a Remington Deluxe No. 5. Even though it's only on scene for a few moments before the character has an enormous meltdown, the model is well made, and it matches its real-life example almost perfectly. In addition to this, there's an achievement in the game called It's Not Just a Typewriter brand. While the company producing the weapon doesn't have any affiliation with the Olympia Typewriter Company, they do share a name. While I think the game is making a direct reference to the Olympia shotgun versus the Olympia Typewriter Company, it is neat that there is a second entendre to the achievement. Fortunately for us, this typewriter trend continues with the DLC. If you aren't scared of some mild spoilers, the ending shows a lengthy cinematic of the same typewriter being prepped, loaded with paper, and get this, accurately typed. I own this exact model of typewriter, and I made a recreation of the scene to the best of my ability to see how good it matches up. You tell me, how do you think it looks?
It wouldn't take much for my thoughts to stray again. It was too easy to get lost in the dark place. Before, I was ready to curl up and die, let myself slip away. But here I was, the yet unwritten future waiting to unfold before me. A sequel to Departure. My name is Alan Wake, and I'm a writer.
I'd say it's pretty good. It's little touches like this that put Alan Wake in a class of its own for these fine details with typewriters. Number 2. Call of Cthulhu. H.P. Lovecraft is one of my favorite authors. The adaptation of Call of Cthulhu onto PC brought this to life. At the start of the game, during the office scene, the main character saunters past a desk that has an older model typewriter on it. It's a model of a Royal, model number 10, although they changed the badging for some reason to Loyal. Regardless, it's a well-designed machine in the game, but I do have one problem with it. My boy HP did not use a Royal typewriter. Instead, Lovecraft used a 1906 Remington model, probably an understriking model similar to the one that I own. I guess the typewriter doesn't have to be entirely accurate, as the character in Call of Cthulhu isn't literally H.P. Lovecraft, which might be for the best, seeing how he named his cats. Number 3. Deathloop. This is a short and sweet one here, and I don't actually have a lot to go off of with Deathloop, but an article from Medium led me down a path searching for a literal needle in a haystack to find this mofo. Despite the influence of Deathloop for futuristic tech or somehow or another, the Olivetti Valentine, a typewriter that came out in 1969, nice, weaseled its way onto a desk in the game. Number 4. BioShock. One of my favorite games of all time, even still to this day. The remaster brought the typewriters within this game back to life. Scattered throughout the levels, an elusive below tree typewriter can be found on desks. The most notorious instance of this comes from the climax of the game. You take a key card over to a main terminal to switch power over to Atlas to give him control of the city. You do so by plugging it into an enormous switchboard-looking device, which apparently controls an entire city throughout a typewriter terminal. They just used the face of this typewriter as a control console, and its Below Tree title can be seen clearly. The naming is once again a changing from an actual brand of typewriters named Underwood. Once again, maybe it's just the devs having a bit of cheeky humor, but I don't think the Underwood Typewriter Company is going to have much of a fuss if you put your name on the asset. Regardless, they modeled it well, and it's created after an Underwood Model 5. And while I don't own one, I do own a few Underwoods themselves, and they did get the typeface right. Number 5. Animal Crossing: New Horizons. A big portion of Animal Crossing is, of course, interior decoration. And sure enough, just for a few bells, you can have your very own typewriter. And not just that, you can have it in multiple colors. They have the usual black, blue, red, green, and yellow. These are modeled after the Underwood standard portable typewriter. In addition, this model of typewriter was known for having numerous colors. But what about this last color choice? It's a weird silvery color with green keycaps. I think whoever designed this from Animal Crossing did their research, because one of the most popular typewriters of all time is called a Hermes 3000. This was famous for being a smooth-writing, durable machine that came in its own unique color choice, a silvery bluish-green exterior with green keycaps. I think this is their homage to one of the greats, and it's little details like this that make people keep playing Animal Crossing for hundreds of hours. Number 6. The Room 2. I don't blame you if you've never played The Room or even The Room 2. It was not an enormously popular game, but it was well thought out, and it had one of the most unique typewriter experiences I've ever seen within it. As a portion of a puzzle, the player has to solve a riddle that has to be individually spelled out on a type of typewriter. This one, to be exact. It's kind of living the vida loca on whether or not it's an actual typewriter or not. I don't know. The typewriter community can kind of get toxic on this one, believe it or not. It's modeled after a real thing, too. The Victor typewriter. Right around the birth of typewriters, people were coming up with all sorts of weird stuff, and the formula for what did and did not make a good typing experience had yet to have been solved. One of those attempts was this. This was an index style of typewriter. Writing by hand was still much faster, and the learning curve for some random person in 1889 would have been preposterous. There's a reason why they didn't catch on, but it is cool to see that they live on in one way or another through this game. Number 7. Amnesia: The Bunker. The bunker features a safe room, much like many other video games, where the player can save, manage resources, and catch their breath for a moment. The model for this is a Remington Portable, probably a Remington Portable number 1. There is a problem though. The Remington Portable number 1 came out in October of 1920, and World War II ended in 1918. The upside to this is that it is modeled nicely, and even though it's just 2 years off, it gives that perfect antique feeling. Number 8. Fallout. Fallout is a unique one. The typewriters in Fallout are not based off any actual typewriters in reality, but do have some aspects that I can see being derived from actual models. They're massive, bulky machines with switches, dials, and most interestingly, a microphone. Shown in the concept drawings, there was an intent to have something called the dictaphone attached to the side of it. Based on a very real thing, the dictaphone was simply a trademark name for the gramophone. We never see these devices animated. They're just blocks of inanimate art, but they do showcase some interesting design choices, namely the IBM series. IBM done changed the whole game up when they started weaseling around in the typewriter world, and they came up with some seriously massive, seriously chunky machines. And these kind of resemble what's being shown in Fallout. I have 2 IBM machines, and it's clear to see how gigantic they were in comparison to their competitors at the time. Regardless, it's cool to see the thought process that the designers went through to make all of this a reality, even if some of the Bethesda magic made them a butt of a few jokes.
So I'll just type it up on my invisible typewriter.
Number 9. We Happy Few. Despite its in-your-face messaging and dystopian facade, the game did manage to squeeze in a typewriter for us weird fans. Although it just spits out a piece of paper as if it were a printer, it gets the point across to what it is. Actually, I'm not sure what it is. I've never seen a typewriter like this. It kind of looks like an Olivetti, especially maybe one of the ones from the 60s and 70s with all the plastic, but it is a fascinating design. Number 10. Red Dead Redemption 2. As if it couldn't get any better, this game has not 1, but 2 typewriters. 1899 was extremely early in the history of typewriters. The one that's seen here, however, is completely era accurate. Labeled in the game as a Hyperion typewriter number 8. It's basically a perfect emulation of an L.C. Smith Premier 2, which was a real typewriter. See, in the early days of typewriters, people didn't really know how to differentiate the upper and lowercase characters. One full set of keys for the uppercase and one full set of keys for the lowercase. The one featured in this game even shows the vertical strike bars and the split spacebar. It goes to show how much this team cared about making sure every little detail was never too small. In addition to the physical typewriter in the game, there is a side quest along the way where the character looks for cigarette cards containing an amazing invention. One of these designs is the original A. Burt's typewriter. It was once again a kind of index typewriter where the user would press a rotating lever which would press that specific character onto a sheet of paper. While many associate Europe with the production and proliferation of typewriters, it was once again America that done did it first. Number 11. Resident Evil. Basically, every single Resident Evil game has had a typewriter in it. They were the ones to pioneer it. In the early days of games, saving was kind of a clunky, hard to understand concept, and it made people stop their game entirely. That all changed with Resident Evil. In almost every safe room within Resident Evil, there's a typewriter whose sole purpose is to save your game. It fits. It's almost as if you're writing down your journey on it so that you can pick it back up later. Extending this even further, some of the earlier Resident Evil games had a save mechanic where the only times you could save were if you had ink ribbons. The series hasn't been lazy about their typewriters either. Basically, every game has a new model. They have classic Coronas and Royals, Underwoods, and even with their Resident Evil Village making their own unique spin. I love that they're not only paying homage to the great typewriters of the real world, but continue that trend further and have made their own. If you know of any additional typewriters in games, and I'm sure there are plenty that I have missed, please comment below. I want to know and I need to know. Thanks again to everyone who made this video possible, and please be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more typewriter content, writing tips, and whatever else I decide to post.